Do you want to double check me for that? Yes.
Max Miller. Shared roll. Maddie. This cross here at the very end.
Yes, sir.
Test.
Sounding pretty good.
Test.
Didn't get it. Just realized that. See? Just a little bit.
So, yeah, groups of 5. Stay in your 5, so you always go walk together. Go walk together.
Good. Oh, okay. There's a new one, so. What's that time? 8:30. Good.
Good morning, and please join me in the singing of the national anthem by Andrea Peterson. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? My name is Michael O'Brien. I'm the Fire Chief for the Brighton Area Authority, and our ceremony this year is slightly different. Maybe we'll say the importance has not changed, but our format has. So today we will be reading the names of our 343 firefighters of the FDNY that lost their lives. 23 New York police officers, the 37 Port Authority police officers, 8 private EMS, and 19 fire patrol who perished working to save and who did save so many lives on September 11th. September 11th is a hard day for so many of us, from so many things, from the images burned of a plane hitting the Pentagon, or the falling towers, or the heroism that we heard on Flight 93 in Shanksville. 9/11 is filled with so much raw emotion, anger, frustration, and even some pretty heavy sadness over time. I think for many of us who were working, we have different memories. But I think most of us truly, really do remember how the country came together. I hope today that we don't forget, and as we read these names, I hope we do them honor. But I truly hope that today we remember those that are still suffering, the mental illness, the sickness, the families who wake up every day missing someone who lost their life in these cowardly attacks. And I would say it's impossible not to see it, not to feel it on a day like today. September 11th was just as pretty and blue sky as it is right now. But that night, September 12th, America came together. It was impossible to not feel that as a country we came together. And maybe that's the hardest part that we forget. We were attacked because of what America stands for, that it's okay to disagree. It's okay to have different political parties. It's okay to have differences of opinions, but we're free. And people attacked us for our true core of what we are as a country. And it's amazing how a sickness such as COVID has made us forget this unwavering sense that happened to America on September 11th. How we came together. And I truly hope that even though we're in a different format today, that as we hear the names, we honor them, that we remember them, that we learn their story, but we remember how America came together. Throughout the ceremony, you'll hear us pause at different key times. We'll pause when the towers were struck, and we will be striking the bell. We will also acknowledge in the tone of the bell of the falling of the towers. We'd ask that you pause in silence and recognize these times as well as we make it through reading the list of the names. With that, Peter Gansey, FDNY Chief. Bill Freehan, FDNY Commissioner. Fire Marshal Ron Buca, FDNY Chaplain Michael Judge. City Tour Commanders Chief Gerald A. Barbara and Chief Donald J. Burns. Battalion 1 Chief Michael Lancelot Ryan. Lieutenant Paul Thomas Mitchell. Battalion 2 Chief William McGovern. Chief Richard Prutney. Faustino Aposto Jr. Battalion 4 Lieutenant Thomas O'Hagan. Battalion 6 Chief John Williamson. Battalion 7 Chief Oriole Palmer. Lieutenant Stephen Harrell. Lieutenant Philip Scott Petty. Battalion 8 Chief Thomas Patrick DeAngelis. Thomas McCain. Battalion 9 Chief Dennis Lauren Devlin. Chief Edward F. Garrity. Lieutenant Charles Garbini. Carl Acero. And Alan Feinberg.
Battalion 11, Chief John Halilo. Battalion 12, Chief Frederick Claude Sheffield. Battalion 22, Lieutenant Charles Joseph Brigada. Battalion 43, Lieutenant Jeffrey Gaye. Battalion 47, Lieutenant Anthony Jovic. Battalion 48, Chief Joseph Grieslak and Michael Pocono. Battalion 49, Chief John Moran. Battalion 50, Chief Lawrence Stack. Battalion 57, Chief Dennis Cross and Chief Joseph Ross Marshbanks. Division 1, Captain Joseph Farley and Captain Thomas Moody. Division 11, Captain Timothy Stackpole. Division 15, Chief Thomas Haskell, Captain Martin Egan Jr., and Captain William O'Keefe. Engine 1, Lieutenant Andrew Desperito and Michael Weinberg. And Engine 4, Calaxto Anya, James Riches, Thomas Scholes, and Paul Tegmeyer.
Engine 5, Manuel Del Valle Jr. Engine 6, Paul Byer, Thomas Houlihan, and William R. Johnston. Engine 8, Robert Pario. Engine 10, Lieutenant Greg Arthur Atlas, Jeffrey James Olson, and Paul Pansini. Engine 21, Captain William Francis Burke Jr. Engine 22, Thomas Anthony Casario, Michael J. Alferez, Vincent D. Kane, and Martin McWilliams. Engine 23, Robert McPadden, James Nicholas Papageorge, Hector Louise Tirado Jr., Mark P. Whitford. Engine 26, Captain Thomas Farino, Dana R. Hannon, and Robert W. Spear Jr. Engine 33, Lieutenant Kevin Pfeiffer, David Arce, Michael Boyle, Robert Evans, Keith Roy Marcellus Maynard. Engine 37, John Giordano. Engine 40, Lieutenant John F. Ginley, Kevin Bracken, Michael D. Diaria, Bruce Gary, Michael F. Lynch, Stephen Mercado. Engine 54, Paul John Gill, Jose Guadalupe, Leonard Galia, Christopher Santora. Engine 55, Lieutenant Peter Friend, Robert Lane, Christopher Mozio, Stephen Russell. Engine 58, Lieutenant Robert Nagel. Engine 74, Ruben Correa.
Engine 201, Lieutenant Paul Richard Martini, Gregory Joseph Buck, Christopher Pickford, John Albert Short. Engine 205, Lieutenant Robert Francis Wallace. Engine 207, Carl Henry Joseph, Sean Edward Powell, Kevin O'Reilly. Engine 214, Lieutenant Carl John Bedigan, John Joseph Florio, Michael Edward Roberts, Kenneth Thomas Watson. Engine 216, Daniel Schur. Engine 217, Lieutenant Kenneth Feynman, Stephen Coakley, Neil Joseph Levy. Engine 219, John Chippewa. Engine 226, David Paul DeRubio, Brian McAllisey, Stanley Smardlaw.
Rescue 1, Captain Terrence S. Hatt, Lieutenant Dennis Mojica, Joseph Angelini Sr., Gary Guidel, William Henry, Kenneth Joseph Marino, Michael Montesi, Gerard Terrence Nevins, Patrick J. O'Keefe, Ryan Edward Sweeney, David M. Weiss. Rescue 2, Lieutenant Peter C. Martin, William David Lake, Daniel F. Roberti, John Napolitano, Kevin O'Rourke, Lincoln Quape, Edward Rawl. Rescue 3, Christopher Joseph Blackwell, Thomas Foley, Thomas Gambino, Raymond Meisenheimer, Donald J. Reagan, Gerard Patrick Schramm.
Engine 285, Raymond R. York. Hazmat Operations, Chief John Fanning. Hazmat 1, Lieutenant John Kariski, Dennis M. Carey, Martin N. DeMeo, Thomas Gardner, Jonathan R. Hoffman, Dennis Sakuro, Kevin Joseph Smith. Ladder 2, Captain Frederick Hill, Michael J. Clark, George DePasquio, Dennis German, Daniel Edward Harlan, Carl Merlano, Dennis Michael McGullen. Ladder 3, Captain Patrick J. Brown, Lieutenant Kevin W. Dorley, Michael Carroll, James Raymond Cole, Gerard Dewin, Jeffrey John Gerardo, Joseph Manali, John Kevin McGoy, Timothy Patrick McSweeney, Joseph J. Origin, Stephen John Olson. The time is 0846. Flight 11 hits the North Tower of the World Trade Center between floor 93 and 99. Immediately following the plane's impact, emergency dispatchers direct FDNY, EMS, NYPD, and Port Authority of Police to the scene. Upon their arrivals, evacuations and rescue efforts begin immediately.
Ladder 4, Captain David Terrence Woolley, Lieutenant Daniel O'Callahan, Joseph Angelini, Peter Brennan, Michael E. Brennan, Michael Hobb, Michael F. Lynch, Samuel Otis, John James Tipping II. Ladder 5, Lieutenant Vincent Francis Giamona, Lieutenant Michael Warcola, Louis Arena, Andrew Brunn, Thomas Hannafin, Paul Hanlon Keating, John A. Santore, Gregory Thomas Cicito. Ladder 7, Captain Vernon Allen Richard, George Kane, Robert Joseph Foti, Charles Mendez, Richard Muldowney Jr., Vincent Princiata.
Ladder 8, Lieutenant Vincent Gerald Halloran. Ladder 9, Gerald Baptiste, John P. Tierney, Jeffrey P. Waltz. Ladder 10, Sean Patrick Talon. Ladder 11, Lieutenant Mike Quilty, Michael F. Camerata, Edward James Day, John F. Heffernan, Richard John Kelly Jr., Robert King Jr., Matthew Rogan. Ladder 12, Angel L. Quarbe Jr., Michael D. Mullen. Ladder 13, Captain Walter G. Hines, Thomas Hetzel, Dennis McHugh, Thomas E. Sabella, Gregory Stojic.
Ladder 15, Lieutenant Joseph Gerald Levy, Richard Leonard Allen, Arthur Thaddeus Berry, Thomas W. Kelly, Scott Capitico, Scott Larson, Douglas E. Olschlager, Eric T. Olson. Ladder 16, Lieutenant Raymond E. Murphy, Robert Peraldo. Ladder 20, Captain John R. Fisher, John Patrick Burnside, James Michael Gray, Sean S. Hanley, David LaForge, Robert Thomas Linan, Robert D. McKinnon. Ladder 21, Gerald T. Atwood, Gerald Duffy, Keith Glasgow, Joseph Henry, William E. Kurowski, and Benjamin Sulanz.
Ladder 24, Captain Daniel Ruffle, Stephen Elliott Belson. Ladder 25, Lieutenant Glenn C. Perry, Matthew Barnes, John Michael Collins, Kenneth Kumple, Robert Manara, Joseph Ravelli, Paul G. Ruback. Ladder 27, John Marshall. Ladder 35, Captain Frank Callahan, James Andrew Giberson, Vincent S. Morello, Michael Otten, Michael Roberts. Ladder 38, Joseph Spohr Jr. Ladder 42, Peter Alexander Beifeld. Ladder 101, Lieutenant Joseph Gullickson, Patrick Byrne, Salvador B. Calabro, Brian Canizaro, Thomas J. Kennedy, Joseph Maffio, Terrence A. McShane.
Ladder 105, Captain Vincent Brunton, Thomas Richard Kelly, Henry Alfred Miller, Dennis O'Berg, Frank Anthony Palumbo. Ladder 111, Lieutenant Christopher P. Sullivan. Ladder 118, Lieutenant Robert M. Reagan, Joseph Agnello, Vernon Paul Shelley, Scott Matthew Davidson, Leon Smith Jr., Peter Anthony Vega. Ladder 131, Christian Michael Otto Regenhard. Ladder 132, Andrew Jordan, Michael Kiefer, Thomas Miglione, John T. Vigliano II, Sergio Villanueva. Ladder 136, Michael Joseph Colley.
Engine 230, Lieutenant Brian G. Ahern, Frank Bonamore, Michael Scott Carlo, Jeffrey Stark, Eugene Whelan, Edward James White III. Engine 235, Lieutenant Stephen Bates, Nicholas Paul Chiaffo, Francis Esposito, Lee S. Phelan, Lawrence G. Phelan. Engine 238, Lieutenant Glenn E. Wilkinson. Engine 279, Ronnie Lee Henderson, Michael Raguso, Anthony Rodriguez.
Rescue 4, Captain Brian Hickey, Lieutenant Kevin Dolan, Terrence Patrick Farrell, William J. Mahoney, Peter Allen Nelson, Darrell B. Harsel. Rescue 5, Captain Louis Joseph Moldafi, Lieutenant Harvey Harrell, Lieutenant Joseph A. Muscali, John P. Bergen, Carl Vincent Beanie, Michael Curtis Fiore, Andre G. Fletcher, Douglas Charles Miller, Jeffrey Matthew Palazzo, Nicholas P. Rosamondo, Alan Tersiewicz.
Special Operations, Chief Raymond Matthew Downey, Chief Charles Casper, Captain Patrick J. Waters, Lieutenant Timothy Higgins, Lieutenant Michael Thomas Russo, Captain James M. Amato, Squad 1, Lieutenant Edward A. Dietry, Lieutenant Michael Esposito, Lieutenant Michael N. Fogel, Ryan Belcher, Gary Boggs, Thomas M. Butler, Pete Carroll, Robert Cordice, David J. Fontana, Matthew David Garvey, Stephen Gerald Silver. Squad 18, Lieutenant Michael E. McGinn, Eric Allen, Andrew Fredericks, David Halderman, Timothy Haskell, Manuel Mojica, Lawrence Virgilio.
Squad 41, Lieutenant Michael K. Healy, Thomas Patrick Cullen III, Robert Hamilton, Michael J. Lyons, Gregory Sikorsky, Bruce Van Hine. Squad 252, Terrell Coleman, Thomas Kuvekis, Peter J. Langone, Patrick Lyons, Kevin Pryor. Squad 288, Lieutenant Ronald T. Kerwin, Ronnie E. Geis, Joseph Hunter, Jonathan Lee Lelpy, Adam David Rand, Timothy Matthew Welty. EMS Battalion 49, Paramedic Carlos R. Lilo. EMS Battalion 57, Paramedic Ricardo J. Quinn.
Port Authority Police Department, Superintendent Ferdinand V. Moreau, Chief James A. Ramito, Lieutenant Robert D. Siri, Inspector Anthony P. Infante, Captain Kathy Nancy Maza, Sergeant Robert M. Kalfos, Donald James McIntyre, Walter Arthur McNeil, Joseph Michael Novice, James Nelson, Alphonse J. Niedermeyer, James Wendell Parham, Dominic A. Pizzullo, Antonio J. Rodriguez, Richard Rodriguez, Bruce Albert Reynolds, Christopher C. Amoroso, Maurice V. Berry, Clinton Davis Sr., Donald A. Foreman.
Port Authority Police Department, Greg J. Croner, Uru Don Houston, George G. Howard, Thomas E. Gorman, Stephen Huxko Jr., Paul William Jurgens, Liam Callahan, Paul Lozinski, David Producio Romaine, John Joseph Lennon Jr., John Dennis Levi, James Francis Lynch, John P. Scala, Walwyn W. Stewart Jr., Kenneth F. Titan, Nathaniel Webb, Michael T. Woolley.
Private Emergency Medical Services. AEMT Keith Thurman, EMT Richard Herman, AEMT Mario Santero, EMT Emil Mariano, EMT Muhammad Salam Mandi, EMT Mark Sullins, EMT Mark Schwartz, and EMT Jeff Simpson.
New York City Police Department, Sergeant Timothy A. Roy Sr., Sergeant John Gerard Coughlin, Sergeant Rodney C. Gillis, Sergeant Michael S. Curtin, Detective Joseph V. Viciano, Detective Claude Daniel Richards, Moira Ann Smith, Ramon Suarez, Paul Talty, Santos Valentin Jr., Walter E. Weaver, Ronald Philip Hopfer, Thomas M. Lindone, James Patrick Lee, Brian Grady McDonald, John William Perry, Glenn Karen Pettit, John Dallara, Vincent Dans, Jerome M. P. Dominguez, Stephen P. Driscoll, Mark Joseph Ellis, Robert Fazio Jr., New York Fire Patrol, Keith Roma, patrolman from New York Fire Patrol Unit 2 in Raymond.
Today is about reflection. We made a promise in September 12th, 2001, that we would never forget. And we will continue to uphold that promise until our own lives come to an end. All the first responders' names that you heard this morning woke up on September 11th, readied themselves for their shift, and went upon their daily tasks. They brushed their teeth. They kissed their wives or their husbands or their children goodbye. They picked up a morning paper, a morning coffee, maybe a sweet roll, and made their way to their duty houses. Not one of them thought that that would have been the last time that they would have had seen their families again. As our own first responders here, under their chariots, carry on to the call, they did the same that faithful morning. They didn't hesitate. They didn't think twice. They went and they did their job. It is in our hands now that we ensure that we carry that on, that we remember those pictures that we've been looking at on social media, on the news, those faces. They didn't think twice about who it was, the color of their skin, their political relations, what God they pray to. They went into those towers and they did their job. We must continue to uphold, as first responders, that we as well will never falter when called. The time is 9:03. Flight 175 crashes into the South Tower of the World Trade Center between floors 7-7 and 8-5. Many are trapped above the impact zone after the crash destroys two of the building's three emergency stairwells and severs a majority of the elevator cables. The remaining times that we are going to read change the course of history as we know it. 0937. Flight 77 crashes into the Pentagon, killing 125 military and civilian workers on the ground, in addition to the 59 victims and hijackers on the plane. 0959. The South Tower of the World Trade Center collapses 56 minutes after being hit by Flight 175. The collapse, which lasted 10 seconds, killed over 800 innocent civilians and first responders inside the building and in the surrounding area. 10:03. Flight 93 crashes into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, killing everybody on board. The hijackers crashed after passengers and crew members stormed the cockpit. 10:28. The North Tower of the World Trade Center collapses, killing more than 1,600 innocent civilians and first responders inside the building and in the surrounding area. Today, we utilize traditions as symbols of reflection to those that we have lost in the line of duty. These traditions reflect the honor and respect of those who have given so much and who have served so well. To symbolize the devotion of these brave souls had for their duty, by reading of the firefighter's prayer and a special signal of 5555. The ringing of the bell was rung out by the remaining members of the company returning to quarters, signaling the end of a comrade's duties and that they would not be returning to quarters that day. And so, for those that have selfishly given their lives for the good of their fellow man, their tasks have been completed, their duties well done. To our comrades, this is their last alarm. They are going home. I ask that you please bow your heads for the firefighter's prayer and then following the ringing of the bell. When I am called to duty, God, wherever flames may rage, give me strength to save a life, whatever be its age. Let me embrace a little child before it's too late, or save an older person from the horror of that fate. Enable me to be alert and hear the weakest shout, and quickly and efficiently put that fire out. I want to fulfill my calling to give the best in me, to guard my friend and neighbor, and protect their property. I would now like to ask the leaders of our first responder within Livingston County, chiefs, law enforcement, EMS, to please come forward and help in the laying of a wreath, that we can have a visual reminder to continue to uphold that promise to never forget. Uniformed personnel, hand salute.